Well, color me surprised. They made another game using the Aliens license yet again, but this time it's actually good. I was not expecting to have this much fun with Aliens Dark Descent. When I first saw that this game was an RTS with XCOM-like unit management, I was kind of skeptical about it because it seems like the Aliens games are either hit or miss. Sometimes you'll get games like Alien Isolation, but a lot of the other times you'll get games like Aliens Colonial Marines or Alien Off-World Colony Simulator for the Amazon Alexa. I'm sure that one was a real system seller. Anyway, because of all the awful shovelware spin-offs that the Aliens IP is known for, it's definitely not really a franchise that anyone's expecting good games out of. But despite the uphill battle against the optics of the franchise, Aliens Dark Descent manages to be a hidden gem in this questionable looking catalog of games. And to be honest, I'm a complete newbie to this universe as I've never seen any of the movies before, so I don't know what any of the characters, worlds, or factions are. All I know is that they're xenomorphs and colonial marines, that's it. But I don't think that mattered all that much because the gameplay is really what this game is focused on. If you don't know what Aliens Dark Descent is, it's a real-time strategy game where you can control a small squad of colonial marines through a number of missions throughout this game's story. What I really liked about the gameplay is the atmospheric tension that this game masterfully builds in each mission. This game really leans into that horror aspect that the series is really known for. The game will have you traverse through these really small and dark corridors where the enemies are lurking all around you, and you have to sort of maneuver your way past them. Each moment being more unnerving than the last as your units are slowly making their way towards the next objective, not knowing what kind of horrors might be around the next corner. I was always on the edge of my seat when playing this game because one wrong move and you could end up getting discovered and triggering the entire hive to come after you, which depending on where you are in the level and how many resources you have left could mean the difference between making it out with everyone alive or losing some valuable soldiers. Sure, you can engage the enemies, but soon you'll realize that that's not always a good idea because resources are really limited. Most of the time, it's actually not a good idea to engage the aliens because of the aggression mechanic that incentivizes you not to engage with every enemy you see. Because if you do, the aliens will start to hunt you down relentlessly the entire time, wasting your ammo and progressing the aggression meter, which basically is a meter that increases the difficulty of the map if you've been hunted for long enough. And you'll know when the difficulty increases because a horde of aliens will spawn and converge in your position. And the thing is, you've got no other choice but to hunker down and brute force your way through it. These moments were the most fun because it was such a blast to just mow down alien after alien using everything you've got. There was this one time where I had to face an onslaught with no primary ammo left, a man down, and all of my units were stressed the hell out. All I needed to do was just survive the onslaught and I could get the heck out of there and go back to base. It was the most exhilarating, adrenaline rushing experience I've had in this game because it felt like my back was against the wall while I'm running on nothing but fumes. And I had no other choice but to get past this obstacle or die trying, and it was such an amazing experience. Now, I mentioned before how your units can be stressed, which is another mechanic that you have to keep in mind while playing this game. Dark Descent has kind of a unique stress mechanic that you have to keep track of while also managing your resources. Their stress goes up for any combat interaction that they go through, with 3 different levels of stress that give some massive debuffs to that marine for the rest of the mission depending on the level. And not only that, but after the mission, depending on how much stress they accrued during the mission, they can be affected by a number of psychological phobias that increase the amount of stress they take even more. And this just makes the gameplay much more tense when all of your marines are at max stress with alien after alien coming after you. These parts make for such a fun experience, and the best part about them is that most of the things that happen in your playthrough are not scripted. Because of the countless random variables that could still happen in your own playthrough, it makes for such wildly diverse and emergent gameplay. There are tons and tons of random things that could happen to you, from their individual unit characteristics to the type of damage they take to the enemy spawns. What this game does extremely well is the XCOM-like individual unit randomizer. Each marine you get has their own unique permanent strengths and weaknesses that modify what happens when you're out on mission deployments. They'll have their own negative personality trait, their own class specializations, and even their own personal traumas that can affect how each deployment will play out. For example, this guy here has the borderline trauma that makes his stress levels climb higher than normal. And this guy here is tired, which makes his accuracy lower, and he has the bad luck trait, which means that there's a chance for his gun to jam while reloading. And this is on top of all the other status effects that can happen to your marines on the field, like hemorrhaging or a wounded leg or even a coma. There's so many more traits that can affect your soldiers and your gameplay that no two playthroughs will ever be the same. What I also liked about the unit management are the many customization options you can give them to make each of them feel unique. Whenever your units level up, you can select what upgrades and what class you want to give them that greatly increases their utility and prowess on the field. You can also give them some extra perks that makes them just a little more special, like a tactical drone or extra ammo pouches. And when you get a bit further into the game, you can give them specialized weapons for their class that just give that extra personal attachment to the marines. This, coupled with the permadeath mechanic, makes each of their deaths feel a lot more impactful, like you've actually lost a good soldier on the field. Now let's talk about the level design. The level design in Dark Descent is actually really good. You see, each of the levels in this game are these huge open areas with a bunch of optional side objectives that you can do. These maps are so massive that most missions would take multiple hours to fully complete. It's not uncommon that you'll have to tactically retreat back to HQ in order to replenish your supplies, then come back fully healed and fully restocked. And what's really cool is that most of these mission objectives are varied enough where it doesn't ever feel like the gameplay gets repetitive. You'll be doing things like surviving onslaughts, finding objectives in the areas, defending your base, and even some stealth sections. And what also made the gameplay always new and refreshing is how each of the areas have multiple layers to them. They almost never have just one floor, and every time you return to that map, there's always a new area for you to explore. And exploring actually feels rewarding in this game, as you'll find a bunch of resources that would immensely help you out if you take the time to go out of your way to complete the many side objectives on the map. Although it is kind of risky to go for them, as you'll have to risk injuring your marines, maybe spend some valuable resources, and even build up the stress levels along the way that could lead you to extract a lot earlier than you originally wanted. So there's definitely some cost-benefit analysis that you'll need to do if you want to go for the side objectives. I also love how this game is pretty difficult. Even on normal difficulty, some of the sections here gave me a hard time. And that's because the aliens almost always remain a huge threat to you no matter how much firepower you have on your squad. They're fast, they're decently tanky, and a single one can cause quite a bit of damage to your squad. If you get detected by even one, the whole hive will start to pursue you and will quickly overwhelm you with sheer numbers alone. Because of this, you also have to be conscious of your positioning in case you ever run into an alien. If you're caught lacking for even one moment, they will tear your team apart. Even if you do manage to kill them before they can land a hit on you, they have a chance to explode on death to deal even more damage. That's why it's best to just avoid all contact with them and quickly finish the objective so you can get the heck out of there. Although one nitpick I do have with the aliens is that there isn't that much variety with them. The aliens all pretty much run at you in different variations. Some are faster, some are tankier. That's it. And the human enemies have even less variation, with there only being pretty much two types. The one that runs at you and the one that shoots at you. I would have preferred just a tiny bit more enemy variety in this game to mix it up a little, but that's just me. Now, this isn't a perfect game by any means. There are some things that Dark Descent doesn't do that well. For example, the story is fine for what it is. It's not that particularly good, but it's not terrible either. It just really serves to give you context on what your mission is about. The characters are all bland and the plot isn't really interesting, but I wasn't really expecting Shakespeare level writing from this game anyway, because it's focused more on the gameplay, so this didn't really bother me that much. But this game does suffer from a huge lack of quality control. Like, there are a bunch of bugs and glitches in this game. For example, there was one bug where one of my units got stuck on the terrain and couldn't move at all, forcing me to reload my save. And there are a lot of times where the visuals would bug out during an extraction animation. Sometimes the audio would bug out during a cutscene and be a lot quieter than normal. There's also no sound effects for the buttons at the end of mission report and when you choose your perks for your units, which is really odd. And the desktop icon for this game is also a really blurry image of the main character, I think. I'm not sure why the devs didn't just use the logo instead of this. This just comes off as really amateurish. Fortunately, I didn't come across that many bugs and glitches compared to the other Steam users during my playthrough, so your mileage may vary. But I'm sure that after a couple of patches, this game will have fixed up most of these issues. Until then, the biggest issue that plagues this game are the numerous bugs and glitches. Overall, if you're a fan of the Aliens IP and real-time strategy games, then you'll probably like Aliens Dark Descent because it just ticks all of those boxes. The gameplay is difficult and intense because your squad can be wiped out or severely crippled at any moment, keeping you on your toes at all times. The unit customization is really deep that allows you to customize your squad to your heart's content and build that personal connection with them. And the maps are these huge open areas with multiple objectives that let you tackle them in any way that you want to. But this game does suffer from a myriad of bugs and glitches that can range from harmless visual hiccups to downright game breaking for some people. But anyway, this gameplay is insanely addicting with loads of content that'll keep you playing for hours and hours on end. I got about 20 hours of playtime on my first playthrough, and for this game's $40 price tag, I'd say that this game is worth it. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know down below and make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more reviews in the future. See ya.